Hello and welcome to the FSF Podcast. I am Tim. I am your host. And as a reminder, this, of course, is the show that is made by nerds for nerds. So welcome to, well, it's not quite the nerdery, but hey, it's not as much under construction either. So we're going to take that as well. Our guest, however, today is an actor, a producer, a stunt performer, also a former baseball player, but I'm pretty sure he's still playing baseball in some regards. We'll talk to him about that in just a couple minutes. But he's got a very cool background, a very cool resume. You've seen him in shows and movies like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He's been in SWAT, Chicago Fire, and most recently on the hit Peacock series, Long Bright River. So I'm very excited to welcome Joe Daru to the FSF Podcast. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Hello. Good to see you, Tim.
Yes. I'm excited to have you here. I started doing research on you and all your background and all the things, and I was like, boy, this guy's got some cool stuff. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about it because I like people whose resumes aren't just, I'm an actor and this is all I've ever done and this is all I've ever been. You've had some really cool things along the way, which kind of make this really nice patchwork quilt of who Joe is. And so because I am a nerd and this is kind of how we do things around here, we love a good origin story. So what's the origin story of Joe? How did Joe get here?
Man, that is a loaded question. There's a long answer. No, I would say I haven't had the most conventional upbringing. My dad worked for the State Department, so it's like, growing up every 2 to 4 years we'd move to a new place. So change was something that was kind of constant, and I would say, born in Thailand, and then we moved to Washington, D.C. Then we moved to Laos. Then we moved to Hawaii. I started school in Hawaii. We moved to Barbados, moved back to Hawaii. And we moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I did, I think between 8 and 12, I was there. That's when I started getting into baseball. We moved to a neighborhood. There's like 15, 20 kids in this neighborhood. After school, we'd play street ball. We'd play football. We'd play manhunt, like tag. I mean,
oh yeah.
That's what you look forward to, after school. Then we moved to Thailand. I went to middle school there, did seventh and eighth grade in Thailand. And then I went to a sports training facility, IMG Academy. It's like a sports high school, played baseball there. After that, went to college in Northern California for a year before going to New York Tech. And yeah, it was a smaller Division I college, baseball experience for me. I played baseball there. And then afterwards was playing independent ball, chasing the baseball dream. Played internationally. My mom's from Thailand, so played with the Thai national team and in some Asian Olympics and the World Baseball Classic. And then,
nice.
With sports, as you get older, the window gets smaller and smaller, right?
Sure. So
then at some point, I was 24, and it was, okay, baseball is coming to an end. What's next? And that was a tough question because it's a big thing is, first off, where do I go since there's no home? There's no like, hey, home sweet home where I know all the neighbors and I know everyone. So the thing was, first off, where do I go? And then second off, what do I want to do? And entertainment was something that was interesting. I used to, joke around with my teammates all the time, and they weren't able to tell if I was BSing or not. So I was like, I feel like I could act. So yeah, made the move to LA. My parents were very supportive, kind of helped me get settled here. And just every year, just try to learn as much as I can and just keep moving forward.
Nice. Yeah, I remember when I was a young boy, I used to live in a town in Michigan here called Muskegon. And after school, we would play baseball in the streets. And but ours was, we weren't allowed to use a real baseball bat because somebody was afraid we were going to get hurt. One of the parents, it was weird. So it was kind of like a version of stick ball, but we used a broom handle and a tennis ball. So we played a version of stick ball. And that was, that coming home from school is like, okay, I got to hurry up and get out there. I don't want to get picked last in stick ball. I want to get out there.
Yeah.
At least, man, that used to be a lot of fun.
It's fun. And you change the rules and you make the bases leaves or this corner.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That fire hydrant was first base. There was the second, whatever car was closest, that was second base. And this is the days before, everybody had a car alarm. So you could go up and hit a car and put your hand on it, and it wasn't going to start blowing up the neighborhood,
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Now, I mean, I feel like that's an experience that kids don't get as much of now just because of social media. You know, there's constant entertainment at home. And then also, in terms
These
of, yep,
things.
that, and then also safety. I mean, they weren't telling us, like, don't talk to, I mean, I guess they technically said don't talk to strangers, but people are just out there, whatever, you know? We were out
Right?
there and the
Yeah.
kids are like, what are they going to do? Take us all?
Right. Yeah. When I was a kid, man, it was, hey, I stayed out until the street lights came on. And when the
Mhm.
street lights came on, that was my clue to get home. It was all crap, pedaling as fast as I could on my old Schwinn BMX bike, trying to get home as fast as I could because I'd pushed the limit. I stayed out till that street light clicked on.
Yeah.
So
And your parents couldn't find you, right? Because there was no
oh
cell phone.
no.
Which
There was no cell
which
phone.
there's a kid that I coach because I coach some baseball here. There's a kid that I coach, and he's about 13 or 14 years old, and his parents told him, if you take the writing test, typing test, we'll give you a cell phone, like with connection, like whatever,
Sure.
mobile connection, right? And he just refused to do it. And this whole time, I thought he was being lazy, right? Because he would explain this to me, and his parents would explain it to me. And he said, Joe, listen, if I get cell phone connection, then I have to respond to them. If I don't, I could just say that I didn't get it. And he's like, I get Wi-Fi wherever I could get Wi-Fi, and I was like, what a smart kid. This whole time I thought he was just, too dumb to type. But no, he was actually
No.
outsmarting everyone.
He was ahead on the curve there. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Well, yeah, if I have a phone, I gotta answer.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Well, kudos to him.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean, you did all these things, and that led you up to the point of acting. But you've also worked on stunts and been a stuntman, and some of the things you've done. Now, I don't know anybody that just wakes up one day and says, you know what, today I want to go throw my body at some things and do some things that are going to be most likely be dangerous, possibly cause myself injury or harm. Um, that doesn't usually just happen. So what for you was the draw to being a stuntman, and how much did your athletic background play into that?
People do crazy things for money, no, no. So I moved to LA in 2017, right?
Okay.
And I tried to figure out what skills do I have? What could separate me from other people, right? Baseball is
Sure.
one, but there aren't a lot of baseball projects. I mean, there's some here and there, but for the most part, you're not working on 10 baseball projects a year, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot more football. There's a lot more basketball. Thai, I speak Thai, which is a skill. Sometimes they specifically need a Thai speaker. So it's like instead of if you had a role that you'd be competing with 3,000 people for, speaking Thai, it becomes 5 people. Playing baseball at a high level, it becomes a 20 group person that you're competing with for opportunities, right? And so I said, okay, what other skills do I have? I was like, I'm athletic. I played baseball at high level. I used that athleticism to, I mean, part of my game was stealing bags. Um, I enjoyed working out. So I know baseball players come in all shapes and sizes. I like to
Sure.
think that I was a very athletic one. And so I was like, how do I use that to maybe get more opportunities? And nearby my house, there was a stunt training facility where people would go and learn how to do fights on camera, because obviously it's a bit of a dance. There's a technical side to it, understanding where the cameras are, understanding, like if I go to punch myself, I have to cross my face. If the fist ends here and you see space, it doesn't look like there's a hit. So it's like understanding where the cameras are. Is it to your side? Is it behind you? And understanding how you have to basically punch and kick, and fall to make it believable. So I started doing that. And I said, I'm going to try to use this to basically just get opportunities working in film and TV, because at that point I knew I wanted to act, but I also was very open to this whole business as a whole, and
Right.
I'm super grateful for that. A lot of my good friends are working stuntmen and women. I've worked quite a bit as a stuntman, you know, and it's also given me opportunities to audition for roles that they wanted, somebody who can hit the ground but also deliver these lines. So especially starting off, there's a lot of stunt acting opportunities that I got, and from there, that kind of helped me, you know, build up my resume and some of my reel, and then that kind of helped give me bigger opportunities, or at least the opportunity to audition for stuff. So it's all related in a sense. And I think one thing about being a stuntman is you're a performer, but you're basically part of the crew, and your job is
Right.
to figure things out, make it as easy as you can for the camera or the other actors that are involved in the scene. And so it reminds me a lot of baseball and sports. I mean, your job is to assist and help out be a team player.
Right.
So you don't really get, I would say, you get, the stunt community is very grounded, and they understand their role, and they're willing to go, you know, full throttle for the production and do whatever that's needed to make it look good and not complain.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I had a memory pop in my mind as soon as you said you were talking about, you know, making sure making sure that the hit looks like it lands.
Yeah.
Now, when I grew up, I was a big WWF fan, you know, the World Wrestling Federation, WWE now, because, you know, the pandas and the wrestlers couldn't share the same acronym. But I remember going to a WWEF event back in the day, and I got these free tickets, and a buddy of mine wanted me to go with him, and I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll go with you. I watch it on Monday nights. That'll be a lot of fun. I never realized how far off, like, I mean, you talk about the punch being that far away from the face, and that's kind of that was exactly what I was seeing. I was like, wow, this is way better on TV. These guys aren't even hitting each other. This is, you know, I mean, on TV it looks real, but when you're there and you're on the opposite side of that camera angle that you were talking about, if it's not, it was so bad. It was so bad.
It was on the TV the other day, and I remember watching it as a kid, and it always looked good, right? The guy in the truck who changes the cuts is doing magic. And you look at when all the cuts are happening. Like my friend mentioned it to me the other day, because I don't really watch wrestling, you know, but seeing it live, especially these events that are live. I mean, when they're it's a magician in there, making sure that all the angles are the best angles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I haven't watched it in years, but at a certain point I got tired of watching dudes and underoos wrestling each other. And I was like, yeah, we'll go back to hockey.
It's been a long year since then, huh?
It's been a long 6 hours. So yeah. No, just kidding. But yeah, but that was the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, yeah, because if you're not landing those properly, it's not going to look right, and then the fight isn't believable, the action sequence isn't believable, and So here's the other question that just popped in my head about that: as you're learning, how many times you get punched?
Oh, a lot. I mean,
a lot.
I mean, you're constantly doing reactions with your head, so yeah, I mean, especially early on, you definitely feel it. You know, you're doing. I mean, it's repetition, and it's reps of things you typically aren't doing. But it's fun, and when you learn how to do it safely, I mean, that's the most important thing.
Okay.
It's a game of minimizing risk. There's always risk, and you're just trying to give yourself the best chance of doing it safely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I talked about your baseball career, I acted like it was ages and eons ago. But I did do some Instagram stalking, or what I like to call as research. But it's not that long ago that you were playing. It was back in 2023, I think was the last. I think the last image I saw of something that you had posted with the Thailand team for the Asian Games. So, and you had mentioned that earlier, being able to play for the Thai team. So, for you, having been born in Thailand and that being part of your culture, what does it mean to you personally to be able to represent Thailand in situations like that?
It's been one of the greatest honors to be able to put on a uniform and go out and compete for your country. You know, I'm Thai and American. I'm very proud of both.
Sure.
You know, I think I didn't have the opportunity to play for Team USA. They're pretty stacked, you know. No, but it's been great, and just going out there, and you know, baseball's developing in Thailand, and just trying to help that sport grow there. And you know, I mean, the Asian Games is the second biggest event outside the Olympics. So I mean,
Wow.
thousands and thousands of athletes, maybe close to 10,000 athletes and events, and they go full throttle for these competitions. So it's, you know, it's a lot of fun, and going out there and playing against some of the best players in the world. I know, like in 2014, we played in Korea, and they actually halted their professional baseball league during the Asian Games because they wanted their best players to be able to go and compete and win gold. And like
That's cool.
for Korea, if they win gold, they don't have to do military service. So for them, there's huge incentives. So I remember, I mean, I was in college then. I was 20 years old, 21 years old, and you know, you're playing in front of 25,000 fans in Korea, and you're playing against four of those guys were in the big leagues the following year. So yeah, I mean, getting that opportunity is awesome. Being able to represent Thailand, I know my mom is super proud. Her family is all, you know, so proud. And then also my brother played with the team for many years.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, it's I mean, it was so awesome, you know. And over the years, I've done well for them. So it's nice to be able to go back and, you know, play a little bit.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So are you keeping up with your baseball skills? Or are you just or as you know, you said you had, you know, you got to an age and you said you had to say, okay, what's next? Is that has that kind of sunset on playing baseball, or if there's an opportunity that comes up, would that be like, well, you know, we could talk?
You know, pursuing it as a career, that window's shut. But in
Okay.
terms of having the opportunity to play, I know like with Thailand, there's the Sea Games this year in Thailand, which would be awesome to win gold at in Thailand. They're the host country,
Mhm.
and then next year the Asian Games in Japan. So I'm sure. I mean, Japan loves baseball. I'm sure they're going to put forth a great event and have
Oh yeah, for
you know,
sure.
all the bells and whistles. So I think that would be fun. But at the same time, you know, it takes longer and more effort to get into shape. When I was playing every day, it's easy. You just pop over. But now it's like there definitely is um, a big time commitment, because if I'm going to go out and play, like I expect a certain standard, you know, and like
That's fair.
the last thing I want to do is go out there and suck.
Oh,
That's
for
just,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather
Yeah.
not play than do that.
Yeah. Why half-ass it, right? If you're going to do it.
100%. But I mean, it would be fun to play this year. It would be fun to play next year. Um, Also, I have to balance in. I have a career, and you know that I'm trying to continue to build. So, yeah, that's why in
That's fair.
2023 there was the strike. I think I was able to play in 3 tournaments that year.
Oh,
Yeah,
because of the actor strike. Yeah.
there was like a strike for I think 4 months, 5 months. There was pretty much no work, and so I went over to Thailand a couple times. Went to Taiwan. Went to China. So it was, yeah. I was traveling. I
Living
was
it up. Yeah, absolutely.
trying to live it up. You know.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? All right. So talking about that career, that was a nice segue for me. Thank you very much. You set the table nicely. Um, let's talk about the show that's doing really well. That's Long Bright River. That's on Peacock. So tell us about your character. Talk to us about the show, and tell people why they should be watching this absolutely stacked cast.
You know, so this is a 8 episode limited series on Peacock. It basically follows a character named Mickey, who's played by Amanda Seyfried, and she's a police officer, and her sister is. It takes place in Kensington, Philadelphia, Kensington, which is right outside of, on the outskirts of Philadelphia. It
Mhm.
is a very poor neighborhood. It's kind of been, you know, there's crime, there's a lot of drug addiction, which is a unfortunate reality in a lot of cities throughout the world and throughout the U.S. But you know, this basically is a story about a relationship between two sisters. One is a drug user who's working on the avenue. The other is a police officer. And when a string of murders hits that area, Mickey is very invested in trying to figure out who it is because her sister is also missing at this time. And so it shows, it shows a lot of bonding and family connections and how that gets torn apart by drug use and yeah, the reality of it takes a toll on everybody, and it kind of shows it's a big family thriller crime mix. So,
Okay.
yeah, I play a detective on that, and basically helping Mickey try to figure out who is behind all these murders. And it's a thriller. I think the writing's fantastic. There's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of fantastic actors on it, and yeah, very fortunate to be able to work alongside some, really, really talented actors.
Yeah, I think if people pull up the cast list and they kind of scroll down at you, you're just gonna kind of go, "Oh, I've seen that person in a show. I've seen that person in a show. I've seen that." And it's like almost every person as I was going down the list, I'm like, I could, even if I didn't recognize them by name, I've seen their face and I've seen them in something, and I went, "Oh yeah," like the gentleman who plays G or Gee, I can't remember, but John Doman. I've seen him in a couple different things, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's his name. That's John Doman." But yeah, he's, there's a lot of cool actors on this show. And yeah, and you're out of the 8 episodes, you're in 6 of them, I believe.
6 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool, man.
Yeah. So it's fun. Got a chance to spend, shot over a course of like 4 months in New York. And, it's different because a lot of the shows that I've worked on have been 1 episode or 2 episodes of a show that's been running for some time. And it's different. My first episode was episode 2 on this, but it's fun to be able to contribute a little bit more than, just going in, saying your lines and getting on a flight and leaving, or getting in your car and leaving. So it's, that's one of the things is a lot of these shows that run for a long time. You have your little piece to the story and then you're done. So this was fun. The showrunner, Nikki, was great. They actually, it was originally a different name for this character, and they asked me, they're like, "Hey, is there a Thai name that would work here?" And so I sat down with my parents, gave a few suggestions. So they changed the character's name to, kind of fit my background a little bit more. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun, and being able to talk through the character a bit with the showrunners and producers, and be able to play with that a little bit was fun.
That is very cool. Yeah, that's one of those little factoids that I did not know about. So I always like it when I hear stories like that, not just because it's respectful of the actor and their cultural heritage and things along those lines, but I also think that it makes it something that's more true and believable for the audience as well, because you're respecting this, but you're giving due credence and heed to what's actually happening in the storyline. So I think that's very cool.
Yeah. No, it was my first time I've had that happen where they're like, we're just going to change the name. What do you want?
Can I be Bob? I want to be Bob. Can I be Bob?
I want to be Bob Smith. I look like Bob Smith, don't I?
The best of the Bob Smiths is what you would appear to be there, sir. No, that's cool. So yeah, that's on Peacock right now, and people can find that. Of course, if you're not subscribed to Peacock, here's your reminder: you should be subscribed to Peacock. So go check that out. There's a lot of free stuff on Peacock that you can watch, and but there's also reasons to subscribe. This show would definitely be one of those reasons to subscribe.
Also, Chicago Fire's on Peacock, and I have another
episode it is
coming out this month.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. All right.
If you want to see Joe Daru on Peacock, this is your time.
You'll have many opportunities, many episodes for you to be able to view that on.
Well, I feel like now, like watching sports and watching football, you have to have everything.
I'm like, pretty much seems that way, yeah.
There's half of this game is on Peacock. The second half's on Netflix. So get both if you want to watch the full game. I'm like, all right.
Fine. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I kind of told you in the pre-show that I love to know what makes people tick and why they do what they do. And sometimes that they do what they do because that's their dream, and that they've always there's the Michael Scott quote from The Office. This is a dream I've had since lunch, and I'm not ready to give it up yet. But then there's people who have dreamed about something for, literally this is what they wanted to do since they were a kid. But you've had some opportunities now to play in some pretty cool sandboxes. You were in Guardians of the Galaxy. I loved the reel that you put out of you getting your makeup on and getting dressed up and dancing around that made me laugh pretty good. I was like, all right, yeah, go Joe. And then, you've had some opportunities to play some cool sandboxes. So let's just throw something out into the universe, see if it ever gets a chance to stick. What's the dream role for Joe Daru? What do you go, if I could be this thing or be that character or this type of story, is there something that you want to do that would be essential to your storyline?
I would have to say a baseball film,
Okay.
I feel like I know there's a lot of TV shows now, but like you look at like Kevin Costner and what he was able to do with, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, right?
For the love of the game.
For the love of the game. I think he's got one left in him. I think he should do a good baseball film. I think, you look at a lot of these movies, they collaborated with Major League Baseball. They had access to stadiums or uniforms or, an array of different things. I think baseball must have been like in the 90s and early 2000s, they did a really good job of even incorporating major league players into things. My favorite baseball film is The Rookie with Dennis Quaid.
That's a good one.
And I think a major reason for this is all the baseball in those films look real. Like Kevin Costner could throw the ball. He can catch the ball. He looks like a baseball player. He's also a fantastic actor. Dennis Quaid looked really good throwing the baseball, right? When I watch a show and I see this and then a CGI ball going 98 miles an hour, it's a turnoff because if it's like if it's your thing, you want to see it be done well. So I think that there's space for a baseball film. I would absolutely love to be in one. I've written a few ideas out for a baseball film that incorporates, current day stuff with, Major League Baseball. And I think that would be like something I would really, really get a kick out of. So
that would be fun. Yeah. When you said that, when you started mentioning The Rookie, I thought, for whatever reason, I thought you were talking about the movie done years ago about the 12-year-old who breaks his arm and then all of a sudden he can throw really fast. I think that might have been for the Cubs.
Rookie of the year.
That was Rookie of the Year though. Yeah, there it is. I couldn't remember if it was Rookie or Rookie of the Year. Yeah, all of a sudden he's got the fast arm twitch and
yeah. But all these films, I remember like going to baseball camp in Florida, and it would rain, and we'd sit there. Everyone, all the kids would sit there, and they'd roll out the TV, and they'd put on like The Sandlot or Rookie of the Year.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So I've probably seen that a billion times as a kid, But to me, obviously the market's changed quite a bit. I feel like with streamers, like the experience of a classic film, like the window for films now is so small. People used to just watch the same films over and over and over again. But yeah, sports. I think sports, a lot of people connect well with it, and then especially baseball. It's ingrained in so many people's lives, especially.
Oh, sure.
Like in the Midwest, in the East Coast, in the South, like everywhere, the West Coast, like everyone. I feel like if you grew up in a suburb in America, you grew up around or playing baseball. Like that's just what people did or do.
Some way, somehow, even if you didn't play for Little League or high school or whatever, some way, somehow you were playing baseball, softball, stick ball out in the field. Yeah.
That's something that needs to happen. I'm working on it.
You should. Honestly, I think we're due for a good sports movie. Because in honesty, I think in my opinion, the last good sports movie was about football. So, we haven't had a good baseball movie in a while. We're due.
Yeah. I think football does a pretty good job, or I think they've done a fantastic job of marketing themselves, because
Oh yeah.
it's the fun sport. I mean, the NFL makes the most money out of any sports league, right? But they've done a really good job of marketing, I think, in all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, I mean, football's kind of blown up. I
Oh,
think
for sure.
baseball. I mean, they have some rule changes. I think there was an issue with the time of the game and the pacing of the game, and a little bit too. It's like the world shifted in where it's like instant gratification, right? And baseball, there's a buildup, and sometimes it
Yeah.
takes 8 innings for something to
Mm-hmm.
happen.
It's not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah,
And it's the length of the season. It's double any other season out there. So yeah, it takes more time for a baseball to tell a story than some of the other sports. But it can be
yeah.
worthwhile. Sure.
Hopefully, next time I'm talking to you, baseball movie is done.
There you go. It's a solid plan, sir. All right. So one of the other things I like to do is ask people for suggestions. So I'm looking for a suggestion from you of a book or a song that everyone should be reading, listening to, knowing about. What is at the top of the list of the Joe Daru recommendations?
I have a book that I'm reading right now. I believe it's called The Psychology of Money.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not what you were expecting, but
No, that's okay.
yeah. I think the last two books I read, novels I read, Long Bright River, and this other show called Black Cake. But those were two shows that I worked on. So for me, it's much easier to read it when I envision the characters and I could piece them all together. Sometimes I read a novel and there's 14 characters, and I'm like trying to create that world. So like a lot of the books I read, I like reading money books.
Okay.
I feel like that's always a good skill to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Song wise, I recently worked on. It's funny. I recently worked production side on the Oscars. And so one of the people performing there is an artist named Lisa, who's Thai. She's like a huge K-pop star, okay? Which
Okay.
I knew very little about because I don't really listen to a lot of pop music and or K-pop music. But also White Lotus came out, so she was in it. So yeah, my friends have been introducing me to K-pop-ish and Lisa music, and she raps. And that's probably been something that's been playing more than I would have thought on my, Apple
Fair.
Music in the last month. So yeah, there's some
Okay.
catchy songs. Sometimes I don't know what they're saying. Sometimes it's in like 3 different languages, and the beat sounds good.
I understand. My daughter listens to K-pop, and so
Yeah.
she'll be listening to it. I'm like, and it's some of it's in English, some of it's in Korean, and I'm like, do you know what they're saying? She's like, not really, but I like the way it flows. I'm like, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting it.
What's funny
So,
is I make short films, okay? And my creative partner is an Italian guy named Axia, and he's a rock singer. But he said
okay.
when he was a kid, he would listen to American rock songs, and and he didn't know what they were saying. And he realized this group that he loved, and I'm blanking on the name now, but it was like one of those parody groups with like the lyrics were ridiculous. And so as he's gotten older and learned English, he's finally realized, he's like, this is the dumbest stuff. Like what they're actually saying is ridiculous. But he didn't know that for the first 5 or 6 years that he's listening to it and like singing along with it. And it's so funny.
That is funny. I like that. All right. All right, Joe, we've hit the spot of the interview where it's time to ask you a silly question.
Okay.
And we asked this because now I have a co-host whose name is Kathleen. She couldn't be here today, but she was out with her daughter, and somebody asked her daughter this question, but not her. And Kathleen thought, well, how rude. Everybody should be asked this question. So now we ask it as our concluding question.
Okay.
So, Joe Daru, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Ooh. I'd have to say a T-Rex.
Fair, yeah.
Little arms, probably lived a good life, was dominant,
Yeah.
And then it got cold.
It got cold real quick.
It got real cold.
Oh, very good answer, sir. All right, Joe. Hey, thank you so much for being on the FSF podcast today. Where can our listeners and viewers go to find out more about you and things that you've got coming up?
Awesome. Well, I am on Instagram at Joe Daru, Joedaru, and also I make a bunch of short films with my my creative partner. The YouTube channel is Framed by Axia, AXIA, and so we put all our short films on there. Those are like passion projects and something I'm very proud of. We actually have a baseball short film that I shot with a kid that I coach. And that was his first time acting, and he did fantastic. And it's basically, the short films are something that I'm very proud of, and hopefully can keep growing that. So if you get a chance to check that out, that'd be great. But I appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. And I'll put links for those down in the show notes down below so people can check out your YouTube channel and check you out on Instagram as well. And guys, this is a great time to remind you that if you haven't started following our show here on YouTube, that's the most important thing you can do to make sure that we get amazing guests like Joe Daru here today to come and have these moments for you to be able to listen to. So please consider following our show, but also considering Joe on Instagram and his Frame by Axia on YouTube as well. He's got some cool stuff there. I know because I've looked at it. It's cool stuff. Check it out. So yeah, Joe, again, thank you for being on the show. Guys, thank you for listening to the FSF podcast, and may the force continue to be with you as you live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2025 FSF podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.